Good morning, good folk, and welcome back to the old curiosity shop. Well, there she sits. You haven't seen her since last October, and you've been screaming at me to get this dollhouse restoration going. Well, of course, again, I picked the hottest, most humid middle of July week to work on this in this old garage, but here I am. Now, let's talk for a minute. If you don't know what this is, I have put a link underneath this video. I want you to stop now. All right, everybody stop. And go back and watch the original videos from back in October when I found this beauty. I don't want to be too repetitive. So you can go back and look at that if you're interested to find out how I found it, where I got it, and to take a look at the interior. Furnished as much furniture as I had at that time. We're not really going to be talking about furniture today. I'm also going to tell you a little bit later in this video a story about an interesting conversation that I had at an antique store with some differences of opinions. Now, I don't mind differences of opinions. I certainly don't. But I would love for you to listen to the story and tell me what you think. That's all going to come later on in this video or maybe the next. But right now what I want to do is show you what I plan to do to this house in terms of restoration. That's right, not refinishing, but restoration. Quickly, the house was probably built sometime in the early 1920s, 1922, 23, into the mid 1920s. It's a homemade dollhouse and it's huge. What do I have to do to it? Well, whatever was over top of the doorway here is gone, but we've got enough ghost marks here to tell us that there was a roof that came across here, another slanted support that comes out here to hold the roof, and then down here we would have a simple rail, and that's it. So this shouldn't be that difficult, but I do want to make it look old, as if it were, you know, as if the thing hadn't been damaged. Let me spin this around. I've got it on this little rolling table here, or old-fashioned rolling dresser. We'll spin it around and then look at the interior. Okay, what has to be done in terms of repairing the broken bits, the things that are missing? Well, down here under the crawl space, and this piece was missing, and last October we got under here, you were with me, and we pulled out a poor old mouse nest. Remember that? The mice had gotten in here and built a little home. There's a little bit of the nest still under the crawl space of this house. But what I've got to do is get in and repair all of this wiring. Now this is the old electric cord and wiring that was put in here by the I'm going to guess the father or the grandfather that probably built this for his children. The mice chewed on this wire here. This is going to be somewhat difficult because the wiring is built into the house, and in order to get to it, it's going to be a little tricky. There is a lighted fireplace. Well, let's take a look at that. That's right here. And I've got to get inside. There's an electric light under there. Here is one of the homemade floor lamps falling apart. It's very crude, but I have to try to fashion another one because there was another one right here which is completely gone. So I've got to build a floor lamp. All right. We have to repair the newel posts and the rails here on the staircase, and we can see it looks like this is the top of an old clothespin, and they've stuck a little pearl on the top of it, a little plastic pearl. And so what I'm going to do, I've already got some old-fashioned clothespins, and you can see the way this is going to work. That one is already split, so that will be the other section of the newel post here and here. I've got enough of those to do that. And then they use these little dowels here, and I've got some here, right there. All right, so I'm going to be able to replace that. And then as we travel upstairs, and of course you've already seen this in the other video, I've got to replace the supports that were here and here. And then this is some of the wiring that goes up into the attic. And these are the old Christmas tree light sockets that are hanging down from the ceiling, which need to be repaired. So I think there might be a few more repairs to do, restoration to do. The window in the front door is cracked. I'm probably just going to leave that the way that it is. And I will say at this point, well, let me turn this camera and let you see my face, and we'll talk a little bit more. Ooh, it is hot in this garage, but I will go and find myself some old, awful oscillating fan down in the basement somewhere, you know, the kind that goes and just blows hot air on you. And we'll see if we can get a little breeze going on in here. Okay, now, what was I going to tell you? Oh, about the dollhouse. Okay. I am not an expert. I'm just a guy in a garage. And I want to honor and respect the builder of this old house, which means I'm not refinishing it. This is a good time for me to tell you my little story. Let me go get some ice water first. Oh, that's better. Good old South Jersey ice water right out of the sink. Right out of the faucet, I mean. I'm warm. Okay. Story time. If you don't want to hear the story, hit fast forward, maybe 5 or 6 minutes into it, and we'll be back in the dollhouse. Well, last October when I found it, it was in the back. It stayed in the back of my truck for about a week, covered up, of course, because I didn't know what I was going to do with it. It takes up the whole back of my truck. Well, while it was in my truck, I happened to stop at an antique mall. And as I'm walking around, there were two women standing in the front. Oh, I'd say somewhere between my age and my mother's age. And they were speaking very loudly. I was not eavesdropping, but I did hear them say all about dollhouses and dollhouse furniture and dollhouse shows and this and that and whatnot. So I decided I would engage them in conversation, and that's what I did. And I said, I've got an old dollhouse out in the back of my truck. You want to take a look at it? And of course they were very excited. So they came out, these two women, and the one, you know, I very dramatically uncovered the dollhouse. And the one lady, you know, she sucked air through her teeth and went, you know, the way they do. Oh my goodness, that thing is in horrible condition. It needs so much work. And I just kind of stood there and didn't say anything. The other lady didn't say anything either. Well, this one lady went on and on and on about tearing out the carpets and re-wallpapering and putting in, painting it and tearing out, just everything had to be, you know, the whole thing was going to be remodeled, redone, and whatnot. And I just kind of stood there. The other lady wasn't really I could tell she wasn't in agreement, but she seemed a little bit timid to say anything. And that's when I said, well, I so appreciate you looking and giving me your opinions on it. And I was going to leave it there, but the lady said, well, what are you going to do with it? And I said, I'm not going to do with it what you would do with it. And she kind of looked at me and I laughed. And I said, this thing is attic fresh. It was probably made around 1922, 23, 24. It's 100 years old. I bet it was played with for about 10 years and spent the last 80 years, 90 years in a New Jersey attic. Probably in a house that looked exactly like this dollhouse. And I said, because it has not been monkeyed with. Now, it would be different. If somebody got a hold of that house in the 1940s and remodeled it, and then maybe another child played with it in the 50s and then in the 60s, and they had new furniture, and if it had been all altered and changed throughout the years, okay, and then you have a fresh palette. You can do with it what you want. But the state of originality, this looks like an abandoned house. It looks like they lost the house in the crash of 1929. and walked out of the front door, and no one has touched the floorboards in 80 years. I feel my opinion, which was different from hers, and we were very respectful of each other's thoughts, is that it's the value and the originality of the finishes have to be preserved, and it would be a sacrilege to go in and strip anything and redo it. Well, that gave the other woman a lot of encouragement, and she jumped right in and she said, "Oh, yes, yes, yes." So we agreed to disagree, and we parted, of course, on friendly terms. I'm curious to know what you think, and please, you don't. I don't mind. I love it when people disagree with me. It's not about you got to agree with what I say, but I'm curious to know. See, I don't envision this being played with on a regular basis by any type of, modern child. I'm not really saying that right. And I think because the surfaces are so original, this is what antique people love. Now, if you want to redo a dollhouse, get one that's already been fiddled with, it's already been altered or changed, and have a good time with it. But I think that it should be preserved as much as possible. So that's what I'm going to do with it. I hope that helps you understand, because some of you may be watching and thinking, "Oh my gosh, isn't he going to repaint it and tear out those ripped carpets and put on new wallpaper?" No, I'm not going to do that. And hopefully I'll be able to do a somewhat decent job. Oh, it's already 5 minutes. I've been talking more than 5 minutes. And this dollhouse can find a home either in a museum or with someone who appreciates the antique value of it. Okay, so what do you think? Should I strip the whole thing and put in new carpets and chalk paint and granite countertops and stainless steel appliances? Or do I respect the spirit of the original builder and the children who played with that about 100 years ago? What do you have to say? All right, now, I'm done talking. Let's get to the restoration. Whew. South Jersey well water. It's good. I'm discovering more and more about how this was constructed as I pay close attention. This clothespin right here, you can see when it was built, it was cut off at the bottom, and then the hollow part in the middle was filled in with with another piece of wood, and that's how they made it look like one solid banister or a newel post there. Or, well, I guess the newel post is down here. So I've taken this clothespin and I've cut it off. I need to sand it down evenly. Now I'm going to have to fill in that gap there, but if we come around this way, we see that's about as close as I'm going to be able to get. These are all homemade parts, and I don't know if I can find a little bead to put on the top of there. I suppose I can search for one, but hey, it's a start. In keeping with the original builder, I'm doing my best to follow his building techniques. So here's my replacement post here for the staircase. You can see he's filled it in here, and I've done the same thing. I'm not really worried about that side because nobody will see it. And I also, yeah, that'll be fine. Now I'm going to glue that piece of wood in there, and it's going to be attached right here. Let me back up a little bit. And obviously the banister comes out this way, so I've got to put some holes in the back and put some dowels in, and then we'll have that piece. So of course now I've got to stain it and get it to look right. It's a little cattywampus in there right now. Let me sand the bottom of it. Actually, you know what I've just noticed? I just noticed that I've made a mistake. I think it extended down. It extended down, didn't it? Because there was a screw there. So perhaps it went this way, and it extended down and was screwed here and here. Yes, that's exactly how it was done. So back to the drawing board. Well, I have never spent so much time with a clothespin in my entire life. What you don't see off camera is, I probably spent about a half an hour to 45 minutes on this. I fashioned a new one, and I have filled in here where I had to split the thing. Let me get it in focus. And then down at the bottom, it came up a little shy, so I had to glue on a few little pieces of veneer here. And then I filled in the empty space here and over on this side as well. This is the side you'll see. And then I roughed it up with sandpaper to give the stain something to stick to. Now if we come back up here, let's see here. Oh my goodness. It's going to sit right here like this. Okay, it's going to sit right like that. And then I'm going to take a little bit of artistic liberty here. Keeping in fashion, or keeping in mind with this was built out of homemade items, rather than stick those screws back in, I'm going to get some old 1920s upholstery tacks that I've saved. And I'm going to hammer them in to almost make it look like rosettes that hold the decorative wood in place. What do you think? Do you approve of that? I think the original builder wouldn't mind. Let's do that. Well, I was mildly worried that these new wooden dowels really wouldn't stain up the way I'd like them to, and they're a little bit, they don't have quite the same diameter as what's in the house. So I went digging through my bits and bobs, and I've done pump organ restoration in the past, and these are old pistons. These are old dowels. Now, these are actually from the 1890s, these pieces of wood here. And they're just junk pieces from an old pump organ, and these are going to work perfectly because they're old and they're pretty dark. And what I did on this is I was afraid that this would split if I started drilling, and it did split. So I took a series of wood screws and just made a small hole and then a larger hole, fashioned it myself, and then these rails are going to fit right inside. So there's one of the rails, okay? And then because this split, I had to glue it, and we're going to leave it in this clamp and let that sit for, an hour or so. And then we'll get this one post finished up. Now while this one is sitting there, I've got I've got two more I need to fashion, so let me get with it. Now, to fill in the gap around the wood that I've just stuck in there, I'm going to put a little bit of yellow glue, a little bit of wood glue on there. Get out of there. Okay. And then I'm going to sand it. And the sawdust will go in, and I remove the glue, and I fill in the cracks at the same time with sawdust. Let me get it down here. It takes a minute to get it started because it's all glued up. You'll see. Once I get the glue shaved off of there, it'll fill it right in.
I don't really have the right grit sandpaper here, but just a little bit of extra elbow grease. I really don't want to go out and buy any more sandpaper. I'm going to use what I've got.
All right, I just sanded it in. Look at that. You barely see it. See the patch? Now that side I don't care about because you're not going to see that side. That's the finished side. So we have to drill the holes to allow the railing to go in. All right, 3 more to go. Well, taking a break now from the staircase, this is a project we're going to have to tackle the next time, but let me give you a preview of what's coming up in Fix Up That Old Dollhouse Part 2. Now, the front porch, gone. Ripped off in a nor'easter, no doubt. But luckily we've got a bracket here which shows us the pitch of the roof. Yeah, so we've got that. And we can see the ghost mark over here where there was another bracket that held up some kind of a porch roof. Now, digging through bits and pieces, I found some things that my father saved, and it's this old, I don't know, is that gypsum board? I don't know what you call that, but it's just that it's some type of, it's some old-fashioned composite. And the nice thing is that this is what's used. You can't see, it's too low, but this is what the front porch and the steps of the staircase is made of, something similar to this. So we're using an old product here, and what I think I'm going to do is I will take these 3, there's only 3 pieces, that's all I found in the old coffee can, but they're going to fit perfectly. Now I know that pitch might look a little severe, but hey, this was homemade. Didn't necessarily have to look exactly like a true porch, but that's the slope of the roof, or the pitch of the roof over the porch. And then we'll get a second one and a third one, and they will be absolutely perfect. I'll join them together and somehow cut these points off and do something artistic with the front of the overhang over the porch. But I think that's what I'll do. What do you think about that? I think this is going to be just wonderful. And I like the idea of using some old pieces here as well. So that's what we'll do. And then I'll need to have, of course, down here, we're going to need to go ahead and do the rest of the staircase. Okay, that's it. Well, let me tell you, I was holding my breath. I did decide to go back to my electric drill, even though the gentleman who made this almost certainly did not have one. Electric power tools weren't widely known really until the 30s, now outside of industrial use anyway. But so he probably did it all by hand. But ooh, I had to change drill bits 3 times because I was so worried I would snap the head of this clothespin. But that's what I had to do. So we've got it all built back up again. And let's go get this staircase in place so we don't fall down the stairs. Here we go. Well, we are making progress. Now, I'll tell you what, these old pump organ dowels, I don't have any long enough for the railing on the bottom. So what I'm going to have to do is use these dowels, which I didn't want to, but we'll have to make do. What was not easy. Oh, and I abandoned the upholstery tacks. They didn't quite look right. And since we've got all these exposed screws, we're going to just go ahead and do screws. I'll darken this up so that it looks oxidized. But I'll tell you what, drilling the holes here, I had to use 3 different drill bits and it was nerve-wracking. I am not happy with my work up here. I did not do a good job here at all. But it was tricky. And I also noticed, which I hadn't noticed before, there was a railing that was attached right here. So that means there was another post here. See? So we had railings on both sides. I've got to redo that. But I've got this clothespin ready. I've got my holes drilled here. I've plugged the bottom of it. And this will sit here like this. It's not going to sit there correctly right now. And then these pieces will go in here as such. Oh my goodness. Well, that's it. Thank you for watching, everyone. And I hope my poor little staircase rebuild meets with your approval. I'll be adding additional dark coats of stain to get my replacement pieces to match the old original pieces as close as possible. I think I'm pleased with it. I feel as though I used old materials for the most part, and it was all handcrafted, so you've got that homemade look to it. And I think the original builder of the home would probably be pleased. I hope so. Next time we will tackle the electric lighting system, which is going to be a challenge. We'll also rebuild the front porch. So that's it for this old dollhouse. I don't know when I'll be back again with this project, but I certainly hope you will continue to stay tuned to the Old Curiosity Shop. And if you're not a subscriber, I hope that you'll do that and click the notification thing so you always know when a new video pops up. Have yourselves one whale of a night. I'm Scott from the Old Curiosity Shop saying thanks for watching, wait for the cat, and so long for now. That oscillating fan just isn't doing it. I need a swimming pool.